Hyun wiped sleep from his eyes as the alarm blared through his small cabin. The sound wasn't the gentle morning call he was used to. This was the ship-wide emergency alert. Warning. Environmental system failure. Warning. Temperature dropping, in all sectors. The calm voice of the ship's computer didn't match the seriousness of the message. Hyun jumped from his bed, grabbing his lab coat. As the ship's only human xenobiologist, he knew any emergency would likely need his help. The hallway outside his room was filled with crew members rushing in all directions. The research vessel Harmony housed 27 different alien species, all working together to study deep space. Hyun had been aboard for 2 years now, but he had never seen panic like this. "What's happening?" he asked, catching the arm of Kang, one of the human engineers. "Main power core is dead. Backup systems are failing too," Kang said, his face pale. "We're losing heat fast." Hyun felt the chill now. His breath was already visible in the air. The Harmony was deep in the void between star systems, far from any sun's warmth. Without heating, the ship would quickly reach the temperature of the space around it, nearly 270 degrees C. "How long do we have?" Hyun asked. Captain called an emergency meeting. Central chamber in 5 minutes. Hyun nodded and hurried through the corridors, which grew noticeably colder with each passing minute. He rubbed his arms as he walked, his thin human skin poor protection against the cold. The central chamber was the largest room on the ship, usually used for scientific conferences. Now it was filled with worried crew members. Some, like the reptilian Voss, were already moving slowly. As their cold-blooded bodies responded to the dropping temperature, Captain Tay stood at the front of the room. She was human too, one of only 12 humans among the ship's 68 crew members. Her face was serious as she waited for everyone to arrive. "The situation is bad," she said once the room quieted. "Our main power core has failed completely. The backup systems are damaged too. We're losing heat across the ship." A murmur of fear spread through the crowd. "Engineering team is working on repairs," Tay continued. "But we need parts we don't have. I've sent a distress call. Help is coming, but it will take 3 days to reach us." 3 days. Hyun did the math in his head. Without heating, the ship would reach 180 degrees C within 12 hours. Humans couldn't survive temperatures below 40 degrees for more than a few minutes, even with emergency gear. "Most species aboard can enter hibernation states," Tay said. "If you can suspend your body functions, do it now. For those who can't, we have emergency heating pods, but not enough for everyone." "Gee," the head engineer stepped forward. She was human too, her face lined with worry. "We've counted the pods, we have 19. There are 26 crew members who need them." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Some would not survive. "We'll share," Tay said firmly. "Rotate time in the pods. It's our only option." Hyun's scientific mind was already working. Sharing pods might work for a few hours, but not for 3 days. Someone would die. Probably several someones. As the meeting ended, crew members split into groups. Those who could hibernate were already slowing down, their bodies preparing for deep sleep. The rest gathered around Ji as she assigned emergency pod schedules. Hyun stayed behind, thinking. There had to be another solution. His eyes scanned the Yao room, taking in the different alien species. Some, like the crystalline Lumi, were completely unbothered by the cold. Their bodies could freeze solid and still live. Others, like the plant-based Vern, were already wilting. Then his eyes landed on Do, standing quietly in the corner. Do was a mock, one of 4 aboard the Harmony. The mock were covered in thick blue-gray fur that hung from their bodies in long strands. Hyun had always been fascinated by them. They came from a planet where temperatures regularly reached 200 degrees during winter nights. More importantly, Hyun remembered reading about mock fur. It wasn't just regular hair. It contained special cells that generated heat, allowing the mock to survive in temperatures that would kill most other species. Hyun moved toward Do, an idea forming in his mind. "Do, I need to ask you something," he said. The mock looked at him with large, round eyes. "Yes, Scientist Hyun?" "Your fur. It protects you from cold, right? Even extreme cold? Do nodded slowly. Yes. We Mach evolved on Telrus. Very cold planet. Our fur keeps us warm even in deep freeze. Do Mach ever shed their fur? Like molting? Do looked uncomfortable. Yes. New growth pushes out old fur every few months. Why do you ask such personal things? Before Hyun could answer, the lights dimmed. Another power system had failed. Temperature now at -40 degrees Celsius and falling, the ship's computer announced. Estimated time to critical temperature for human crew, 8 hours. Captain Tay approached them, her face grim. We've had our first casualties, 2 maintenance workers in the outer sections. They couldn't reach emergency pods in time. Hyun felt sick. It was starting already. They were running out of time. Captain, I might have an idea, he said, gesturing toward Do. The Mach have special fur that insulates against extreme cold. If they've recently molted, we might be able to use their shed fur to create insulation for the vulnerable crew members. Tay looked thoughtful. Would that work? I need to run tests, but their biology is remarkable. Mach fur contains cells that generate heat and resist freezing, even at temperatures approaching absolute zero. Do stepped back, clutching his furry arms around himself. No, this is not possible. Why not? Hyun asked, surprised by the strong reaction. Mach fur is private, personal. We do not share it with others. Contains our, how do you say, memories, feelings. Captain Tay sighed. We can't force any crew member to help. But Hyun, if you think this could work, keep exploring the idea. Just work fast. She walked away to check on the emergency pods, leaving Hyun with the uncomfortable Mach. I'm sorry, Hyun said. I didn't mean to suggest something inappropriate. I'm just trying to find a way to save everyone. Do's large eyes blinked slowly. I understand, but you must understand too. For Mach, fur is not just hair, is part of us. Deep part. Hyun nodded. Could you at least tell me more about it? The scientific properties, maybe there's another way to use what I learn. Do hesitated, then nodded. I will explain, but must find the other Mach first. Sun, Rin, and Bae should hear this too. Is important for all Mach. As they walked through the increasingly cold corridors to find the other Mach crew members, Hyun could see frost forming on the metal walls. Time was running out. Whatever solution they found would need to work soon, or the harmony would become a floating tomb in the emptiness of space. But Hyun wasn't ready to give up. There was always a solution in science, you just had to find it before it was too late. Hyun and Do found the other 3 Mach in the ship's garden area. The plants were already dying from the cold, their leaves turning black with frost. Sun, the oldest Mach, was helping to move some of the rare seedlings to one of the heated emergency pods. Rin and Bae were wrapping their long, furry arms around themselves, looking worried despite their natural protection from the cold. Friends, Do said in the clicking Mach language. He switched to common speech so Hyun could understand. This human scientist has questions about our fur, about using it to help others. Sun turned quickly, his fur bristling. What does he mean, using our fur? Hyun stepped forward. The ship's temperature will soon be too cold for humans and several other species. Without help, many will die before rescue arrives. This is sad, said Rin, the tallest of the Mach. But what does this have to do with our fur? Your fur can withstand extreme cold, Hyun explained. If you've recently shed any during molting, perhaps we could use it to create insulation for the vulnerable crew members. All 4 Mach stared at him with their large, round eyes. Hyun felt the tension. Grow, this is not possible, Sun finally said. Our fur is sacred, private. We do not share it with non-Mach. Bae, the youngest Mach, looked confused. But why would they want our old fur? It is dead once it falls from our bodies. No, young one, Sun corrected. The fur retains our neural patterns for many days after shedding. It holds our memories, our feelings. This is why we always burn it in the sacred fire when we return home. Hyun hadn't known this part. His research on mock biology was limited to what was in the ship's database. This cultural information wasn't included. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't understand the cultural significance. I was only thinking of the scientific properties." The ship's speakers crackled to life. "Attention all crew. Temperature now at -70 degrees Celsius. All non-hibernating crew report to emergency pod stations for rotation schedule." Hyun knew the situation was getting worse faster than expected. He had to try one more time. "I understand this is a very personal request," he said. "But people will die without help. Is there any way we could use even a small amount? I could run tests to see if we can separate the neural patterns from the insulating properties." The four mock looked at each other, communicating in their own way. Finally, Do spoke. "We will discuss this among ourselves. It is not a simple matter." "Thank you," Hyun said. "I'll be in the lab if you decide to help." He left the garden area, feeling the biting cold more with each step. The walls of the ship were now covered with a thin layer of ice. His breath came out in thick white clouds. In the central chamber, chaos was growing. The emergency pods were barely working with the limited power. People were arguing about the rotation schedule. Medical Officer Jin was treating 3 crew members for early stages of hypothermia. "Hyun," Captain Tae called out when she saw him. "Any progress with your idea?" "The mock are discussing it," he said. "But it's complicated. Their fur contains neural patterns, memories and feelings. Sharing it is deeply personal for them." Tae nodded grimly. "Keep trying. The situation is worse than we thought." She lowered her voice. "The engineering team found more damage. We may have only 6 hours before life support fails completely." 6 hours. Not enough time for the rotating pod schedule to work. People would die. "I'll keep working on it," Hyun promised. He made his way to the ship's lab, which was now so cold that the metal tools stuck to his fingers if he touched them without gloves. He turned on the emergency heating unit, creating a small bubble of warmth around his workstation. As he waited for the mock to make their decision, Hyun began reviewing everything the ship's database had on mock biology. Their planet, Talrus, had average winter temperatures of 150 degrees. The mock themselves had evolved thick fur with hollow fibers that contained a natural antifreeze compound. But the most interesting part was the neural connections in each strand, living cells that somehow connected to the mock's nervous system. Scientist Hyun. He turned to see Bae, the youngest mock, standing in the doorway of the lab. She looked nervous, her large eyes blinking rapidly. "Bae, did you reach a decision?" "Others still talking," she said in her simple common speech. "I came alone." Hyun waited as she stepped further into the lab. "I completed first molt 3 weeks ago," she said quietly. "Have kept fur in special container. Is tradition for young mock. First molt is special. Mark's becoming adult." Hyun began to understand. "You saved your molted fur?" Bae nodded. "Is my childhood memories. Very precious." She pulled a small metal box from her pocket. "But ship friends will die without help." She held out the box to Hyun. Inside was a full coat of blue-gray fur, carefully folded. "Bae, this is your first molt. I can't ask you to give this up." "Not asking, I am offering." Her large eyes were serious. "On Talrus, we learned story of first ancestor, who gave fur to save stranger lost in storm. This is highest honor." Hyun felt a lump in his throat. "The others won't be angry?" "Will understand. Maybe not happy, but will understand." Hyun carefully took the box. "I'll do my best to honor this gift. If it works, it could save many lives." Bae nodded. "What will you do with fur?" "First, I need to analyze its properties. Then, if possible, find a way to create insulation suits without damaging the neural patterns." "Can I help?" Bae asked. "Know how fur works. Can explain." "Yes, please. I could use your knowledge." As they began working, the ship's temperature continued to drop. The ice on the walls grew thicker. In the central chamber, more crew members were showing signs of hypothermia. The emergency pods were failing one by one as power dwindled. Hyun carefully placed a strand of mock fur under the microscope, adjusting the settings to see its structure. What he saw amazed him. The hollow fibers contained not just antifreeze but living cells that generated small amounts of heat. If he could understand how they worked, maybe he could harness that heat generation. "This is incredible," he said to Bae. "Your fur actually produces heat, not just insulates." "Yes," she said. "Fibers take cold, make warm. Is how we survive Taurus. Winters." Hyun's mind raced with possibilities. If we could process this into a thin layer, maybe weave it into emergency suits. The lab door opened and Captain Tae entered, followed by the other three Mok. Sun looked angry, his fur standing on end. Do and Rin seemed concerned but calm. "Bae told us what she did," Sun said. "This is not how Mok make decisions." "I'm sorry," Hyun began, but Bae stepped forward. "My fur, my choice," she said firmly. "Ship friends need help." "Bae is right," said Tae, "and we're running out of time. We've lost 2 more crew members in the outer sections. The temperature is approaching -100 degrees. Sun looked at the fur under the microscope, then at Bae. His expression softened. "Young one has courage," and he admitted, "but 1 molt not enough for whole ship." "It's a start," said Hyun. "If I can understand how it works, maybe we can find a way to make it go further." Do stepped forward. "I will help too. My last molt was 40 days ago. Still have some fur saved." Rin nodded slowly. "I also will help. For ship friends." Sun sighed, his aged eyes blinking slowly. "Then I too will help. If young Bae gives first molt, I cannot do less." Hope flickered in Hyun's chest for the first time since the alarm had woken him. They had a chance now, a small one, but still a chance. "Thank you," he said. "All of you. Now let's get to work. We don't have much time." As the Mok placed their fur samples on the lab table, the ship's computer announced, "Temperature now at -110 degrees Celsius and falling." The race against the cold had begun. The lab had become the warmest place on the ship. Hyun had directed all available emergency power to his equipment. 4 small heaters created a bubble of survivable temperature around the workstation where he and the Mok worked. "Tell me more about your fur," Hyun said as he examined another strand under the microscope. "How does it connect to your memories?" Sun, the oldest Mok, stepped forward. His age gave him the most knowledge about their biology. "Each strand has tiny cells," he explained, pointing to the microscope. "These cells connect to our brain when fur grows. Record what we see, feel, think. After molting, cells stay alive for many days." "Fascinating," Hyun said. "So your fur is like a storage device for memories?" "Yes," said Do. "Is why sharing fur very personal, like sharing peace of mind." Bae was helping sort the fur samples by age. "New fur holds strongest memories," she said. "My first molt has all childhood memories." Hyun felt even more honored by her sacrifice. "On Earth, humans have nothing like this. We record memories with pictures, videos, writing, but nothing physical from our bodies. How do you remember ancestors?" Rin asked, confused. "We tell stories," Hyun said. "We pass down objects they owned, but nothing biological." As they talked, Hyun continued his tests. The fur's hollow fibers contained a liquid that generated heat when exposed to cold, a perfect, natural defense against freezing temperatures. If he could understand how it worked, perhaps he could replicate it. The ship's speakers crackled. "Temperature now at -130 degrees Celsius. All functional emergency pods at maximum capacity. All crew report status to central chamber." Captain Tae's voice sounded strained. Hyun knew they were running out of time. "Need to test if your fur will work for humans," he said to the Mok. "May I try holding a small piece against my skin?" The 4 Mok looked at each other, then nodded. Do handed Hyun a small tuft of his fur. "Thank you," Hyun said. He pressed the fur against his inner wrist, where his skin was thin and sensitive. The effect was immediate. Warmth spread from the fur into his skin, pushing back the biting cold of the lab. But then something strange happened. Images flashed in Hyun's mind. Alien landscapes, faces he didn't recognize, feelings that weren't his own. "Oh," he gasped, pulling the fur away. "I saw something. Images. Feelings." The mock looked surprised. "You experienced Do's memories?" Sun asked, his eyes wide. "I think so. I saw a red sky, purple plants, people I didn't know." "That is Talrus," Do said quietly. "My home village. The memory of day I left for Space Academy." Hyun was amazed. "The neural connection works both ways. When I touched it to my skin, I connected to the stored memories. This was both remarkable and concerning. If humans used the fur for insulation, they would experience mock memories. And what if the connection went both ways? Would the mock feel the human's fear and pain? This complicates things," Hyun admitted. "But the fur definitely generates heat against human skin. It could work as insulation." The lab door opened and Ji, the head engineer, stumbled in. Her lips were blue from cold, her movements slow. "Hyun," she said through chattering teeth. "Any progress? We're losing people." "We're working on it," Hyun said, helping her to one of the heaters. "The mock fur generates heat and could work as insulation. But there's a complication. It creates a kind of psychic link. Whoever wears it might experience mock memories." Ji rubbed her hands together near the heater. "At this point, I don't think anyone would mind. We have 8 crew members in critical condition from hypothermia. The emergency pods are failing one by one." "How long until rescue?" Hyun asked. "Still about 60 hours away. We won't last that long without a solution." Hyun turned back to the mock. "If we use your fur to save the crew, they will experience your memories. Is this acceptable to you?" The 4 mock huddled together, speaking in their clicking language. Their conversation seemed intense, with Sun gesturing firmly and Bae standing her ground. Finally, they turned back to Hyun. "We have decided," Sun said. "If fur can save ship friends, memories are acceptable price. But we must know, will ship friends' memories come to us?" Hyun hadn't considered this. "I don't know. Possibly if the neural connection works both ways. Your memories might mix with those wearing the fur." "This is concerning," Do said. "Humans feel emotions very strongly. Much stronger than mock." "It's true," Hyun admitted. "We do experience intense emotions. But right now, those emotions are mostly fear and determination to survive." Bae stepped forward. "I am not afraid of human feelings. We'll share fur and accept what comes." Her courage was impressive for one so young. Hyun smiled at her, then turned to Ji. "We need to find a way to process this fur into insulation suits. Do we have any fabrication equipment still working?" Ji thought for a moment. "The textile fabricator in Cargo Bay 3 might still have power. It's designed for creating expedition gear." "Perfect. Can you get it running?" Ji nodded. "I'll try, but we'll need a pattern, a design for these suits." Hyun looked at the microscope. Display. "The fur needs to maintain its cellular integrity. We can't just grind it up. It needs to be woven in a specific pattern to maximize heat generation." "I can help with pattern," Rin offered. "Mock learn weaving from young age. Know how fur strands work together." "Good," Hyun said. "Ji, can you get the fabricator ready? Rin will help design the pattern. The rest of us will prepare the fur samples." As Ji left for the cargo bay, Hyun and the mock continued their work. They carefully separated the fur strands, looking for those with the strongest heat generation. Sun explained that younger fur had more active cells, which was why Bae's first molt was especially valuable. While they worked, Hyun shared stories about Earth and human culture. He told them about winter celebrations, about snow and ice sports, about how humans had adapted to cold climates through clothing and shelter rather than biology. The mock were fascinated, especially by the concept of skiing. "You slide on frozen water for fun?" Do asked, amazed. "On Talrus, we avoid ice. Too dangerous." "Humans often find fun in dangerous things," Hyun explained. It's part of our nature to challenge ourselves. Like coming to space, Sun said, nodding, slowly. Leaving safe home for dangerous stars? Exactly. We're explorers by nature. Bay was sorting through her first molt fur, her large eyes thoughtful. Humans very different from Mach. We stay together, stay safe. You go out, find danger. Different isn't bad, Hyun said. Our differences make us stronger together. Your biology lets you survive cold that would kill humans. Our curiosity led us to build ships that can cross space. Together we can do amazing things. The ship's computer interrupted their conversation. Temperature now at -150 degrees Celsius. Life support systems critical in all areas except central chamber and emergency labs. Hyun felt the pressure mounting. They had little time left. We need to move faster, he said. Let's get these samples to the textile fabricator. As they gathered their materials, Hyun realized something important was happening. This crisis was forcing humans and Mach to understand each other in ways they never had before. Cultural barriers were breaking down in the face of survival. He looked at Bay, carefully carrying her precious first molt fur, her childhood memories, to help save people she barely knew. This young alien was showing incredible courage and compassion. In that moment, Hyun knew that whatever happened, this experience would change relations between humans and Mach forever. If they survived, both species would never see each other the same way again, and that might be as valuable as survival itself. Cargo Bay 3 was nearly as cold as space itself. Hyun's breath froze in front of his face, creating tiny ice crystals that fell to the floor. The metal walls were covered with thick frost, and the floor crackled under their feet as they walked. Ji was already there, working on the textile fabricator. Her fingers moved slowly in her thick gloves as she tried to restart the machine. Almost got it, she said without looking up. Power levels are very low. We'll get one chance at this. Maybe two if we're lucky. Hyun and the 4 Mach placed their fur samples on the workbench. Rin immediately began arranging them in a pattern, her skilled fingers working quickly despite the cold. Fur must be in right pattern, she explained. Like this, heat spreads evenly. Like this, cold spots form. Hyun watched in fascination as she created an intricate weave of the different fur samples. The blue-gray strands seemed to move slightly of their own accord, as if still alive. The fabricator is ready, Ji announced. But we have a problem. We don't have enough material for everyone. Even with all the Mach fur, we can make maybe 10 suits at most. Hyun's heart sank. There were still 20 crew members who needed protection from the extreme cold. What if we make thinner suits, he suggested. Use less fur in each one? Sun shook his head. Too thin, no heat generation. Need minimum thickness. What about combining it with something else? Hyun asked. Are there any insulating materials on board we could mix with the fur? Ji thought for a moment. We have emergency blankets in storage. They reflect body heat. Not enough on their own for these temperatures, but maybe combined with the Mach fur. Yes, Hyun said. If the fur generates heat and the blankets reflect it back, we might need less fur per suit. I will get blankets, Do offered, and hurried off despite the dangerous cold. While they waited, Hyun helped Rin finish the fur pattern. His fingers were getting numb, making it hard to work. The cold was becoming deadly even in this relatively protected area of the ship. How much longer until we reach critical temperature? He asked Ji. Ship's core is already at -170 degrees, she said grimly. Central chamber is the only place still above -100. Everyone's gathered there now. Do returned with a stack of silver emergency blankets, frost covering his fur. Got all from storage? He said, his words coming out in puffs of frozen air. Very cold in halls now. Hard to move. They quickly incorporated the blankets into their design. Rin showed them how to layer the fur between thin sheets of the reflective material, creating a sandwich that would both generate and trap heat. Ready for fabricator, she finally said. Ji programmed the machine with trembling fingers. Here goes nothing. The fabricator hummed to life, its display showing power at only 15%. The fur and blanket layers fed into it, and slowly, the machine began to produce a thin, flexible material that looked like silvery cloth with blue-gray streaks. "It's working," Hyun said. They watched anxiously as the first suit took shape. It was a simple design, a one-piece coverall that would cover the wearer from neck to feet. As the fabricator finished, it ejected the completed suit into a collection bin. Hyun picked it up. The material was lighter than he expected, almost weightless, but he could feel warmth radiating from it even through his gloves. "I should test it," he said. "Too dangerous," Sun protested. "If not work, you freeze quickly." "We need to know if it works before making more," Hyun insisted. "And we need to know about the memory transfer effect. If it's too overwhelming, we'll need to warn people." Before anyone could stop him, Hyun stripped off his outer coat and put on the suit over his clothes. The effect was immediate. Blessed warmth spread throughout his body, pushing back the biting cold of the cargo bay. But then the memories came. Flashes of an alien world, red skies, strange buildings, faces he didn't know, feelings that weren't his, pride, sadness, joy, fear. He saw Bei's first steps, Do's graduation ceremony, Rin weaving complex patterns with her mother, Sun's children playing under purple trees. Yun gasped and stumbled, overwhelmed by the flood of alien memories. "Hyun!" Ji caught him before he fell. "Are you okay?" He took deep breaths, trying to sort his own thoughts from the mock memories flooding his mind. "It's intense," he managed to say. "I can see their lives, their world. It's beautiful, but disorienting." The four mock were watching him with wide eyes. "Can you feel us too?" Bei asked quietly. "Our thoughts now?" Hyun focused on his own mind. "No, just memories. Past things, not current thoughts." "Can you handle it?" Ji asked. "Will others be able to?" Hyun nodded slowly. "It's manageable, like a dream playing in the back of your mind. The warmth is amazing, though. The suit works perfectly." Ji smiled for the first time in hours. "Then let's make more. Quickly." The fabricator continued producing suits one after another. As each was completed, they set it aside. But halfway through the sixth suit, the machine sputtered and its display flashed red. "Power dropping," Ji said urgently. "We're losing it." "Can we reroute power from somewhere else?" Hyun asked. Ji shook her head. "There's nothing left to reroute. We're on the last emergency cells." The machine struggled to finish the sixth suit, then went dark completely. 6 suits. Not even a third of what they needed. "Now what?" Do asked. Looking at the small pile of completed suits, Hyun thought quickly. "We prioritize. The most vulnerable crew members get the suits. Everyone else will have to share body heat in the central chamber and take turns with the emergency pods that are still working." The ship's computer interrupted them. "Warning. Temperature now at -175 degrees Celsius. Power failure in central life support imminent." They gathered the suits and hurried toward the central chamber. The hallways were now so cold that the metal walls cracked in places. Ice crystals floated in the air, sparkling in the dim emergency lights. When they reached the central chamber, they found a desperate scene. Most of the crew were huddled together in the center of the room. Those species that could hibernate were in suspended animation along the walls. Medical Officer Jin was treating several crew members with severe hypothermia, her own hands shaking from the cold. Captain Tae approached them, her face gray with exhaustion and cold. "Please tell me you have something," she said, her voice hoarse. 6 suits, Hyun said, holding up the pile of silvery material. "They work, they generate heat even in this extreme cold." Hope flickered in Ty's eyes. 6 is better than none. Who gets them?" "The most vulnerable," Hyun said. "Those closest to hypothermia." Jin joined them, looking at the suits with desperate hope. "Crew members Han, Yong, Mina, and June are in critical condition. If they don't get warmth soon, they won't make it." "That's 4, Tae said. "The other 2? "You should take one," Hyun suggested. "You need to stay functional to lead." Tae shook her head firmly. "No, I'm no more important than anyone else. Give it to whoever needs it most. This was why people followed her, Hyun thought. She never put herself first. There's something else. You should know, he said. The suits contain mock fur with neural connections. Whoever wears them will experience mock memories. It's disorienting at first, but manageable. Tae looked at the 4 mock standing behind Hyun. You shared your memories to save us? Sun nodded solemnly. His greatest gift mock can give. To be remembered. As they distributed the suits to the most critical patients, Hyun watched the mock. They stood together, their fur now thinner from their donations, but their eyes were proud. They had given a piece of themselves, literally, to save others. The first crew member to put on a suit, Han, gasped as the warmth and memories hit him at once. I see. A red sky. Mountains. People I don't know. Those are my childhood. Memories? Bae said softly. My home. Han looked at her with new understanding. It's beautiful. Thank you. As the others put on their suits, something unexpected began to happen. The mock started to react, their eyes widening, their fur standing on end. What's wrong? Hyun asked. Feel human memories, Sun said, sounding shocked. Through fur connection, so much emotion, so intense. The neural connection was working both ways after all. As humans wore the fur and experienced mock memories, the mock were feeling human emotions and memories in return. 2 species, sharing the most intimate parts of themselves, all to survive together in the coldest darkness of space. The central chamber of the Harmony had become the last refuge for the crew. The temperature had dropped to 180 degrees C throughout most of the ship. Metal creaked and groaned as it contracted in the extreme cold. The emergency lights flickered, threatening to fail at any moment. 6 crew members now wore the special suits made from mock fur. Their conditions had stabilized, but the others were still in danger. The remaining emergency pods had failed completely, leaving most of the crew with only their regular thermal gear, which was never designed for such extreme temperatures. Hyun sat against the wall, trying to think. The rescue ship was still at least 40 hours away. They wouldn't all survive that long without more help. We need more suits, he said to Ji, who sat beside him. But without power for the fabricator, I don't know how to make them. Captain, Tae joined them, her face pale from the cold. Any ideas? We've lost power to all systems except basic life support in this chamber, and that won't last much longer. Hyun looked across the room at the 4 mock. They stood in a circle with the crew members wearing the suits, their expressions changing as they shared the strange neural connection. The suits work by channeling the natural heat generation of mock fur, Hyun explained. The fur itself is alive in a way with cells that create heat when exposed to cold. Could we use the fur directly? Tae asked. Without processing it? Hyun considered this. Maybe. The suits help spread the heat evenly, but direct contact would still transfer some warmth. Not enough fur for everyone, Ji pointed out. Hyun nodded, then suddenly sat up straighter. Wait, what if we don't need to cover everyone? What if we just need to keep everyone's core temperature stable? What do you mean? Tae asked. Humans can survive extreme cold if their core, their chest and head stays warm enough. Frostbite might damage limbs, but the person can survive. Ji nodded slowly. So instead of full suits for a few people, we make small patches to cover the chest and head of everyone, Hyun finished. We could hand-stitch them using the medical supplies. The idea spread quickly. Medical Officer Jin began organizing the crew into teams. Those who could still use their fingers well enough would sew patches using the remaining mock fur and pieces cut from the emergency blankets. The mock themselves joined the effort, carefully separating their remaining fur into small tufts. Even Sun, the oldest mock who had been most hesitant at first, worked tirelessly to help. Fur works best when close to heart, he explained as he showed the humans how to arrange the strands. Heart pumps warm blood through body. As they worked, an unexpected benefit of the neural connection emerged. The crew members wearing the suits began to share what they were experiencing, not just the warmth but the memories and feelings. I can see Talrus, said Mina. one of the engineers. It's beautiful. The twin moons hanging low in the sky, reflecting red on the snow. That is Spring Festival, Bay explained. When I was small. I can feel how much you love your home, Mina said softly. Do nodded. And we feel your love of stars, your excitement when ship leaves dock. Human emotions very strong. This sharing created a strange but powerful bond. Species that had worked together professionally for years were suddenly understanding each other on a much deeper level. As the patches were completed, Jin distributed them, showing everyone how to place them over their hearts and the back of their necks, the areas most important for maintaining core temperature. Hyun received his patch from Bae herself. The young Mok placed it carefully against his chest, pressing it to ensure good contact. We'll help, she said simply. As the fur touched his skin, Hyun again felt the rush of alien memories. But this time, he was prepared for it. He let the images flow through his mind without fighting them. Scenes from Bae's childhood, her family, her first day aboard the Harmony. Thank you, he said, for everything. The patches helped, but as the hours passed, the cold continued to deepen. The life support in the central chamber was failing. They had perhaps 10 hours left before the temperature would drop below survivable levels, even with the fur patches. Need more heat, Sun said, looking concerned at the shivering crew members. Hyun had been thinking about this problem. The fur generates heat when exposed to cold. But what if we could make it generate more heat? How? Ji asked. The neural connection, Hyun said. It responds to emotions. What if strong emotions make the fur generate more heat? The Mok looked at each other. Is possible, Sun admitted. Strong feelings make fur warmer. When Mok afraid or excited, fur heats up to protect from stress. And humans feel emotions very strongly, Hyun said, more strongly than Mok, by your own observation. What are you suggesting? Tae asked. If we all focus on powerful positive emotions, joy, hope, determination, maybe we can make the fur generate more heat. It was a strange idea, but they had nothing to lose. Tae agreed to try. She gathered the crew in a tight circle, everyone touching, sharing body heat as best they could. Focus on your strongest positive memories, she instructed. Times of joy, triumph, love. Share those feelings with the fur patches. Hyun closed his eyes and thought of Earth, the warm sun on his face in summer, the achievement he felt when he graduated from the academy, the love he had for his family. Around the circle, others did the same. Some cried as they remembered distant homes and loved ones. Others smiled as they recalled moments of happiness and success. Something remarkable began to happen. The fur patches grew warmer. Not just a little warmer. Significantly warmer. Heat spread from them throughout the room, pushing back the deadly cold. The four Mok gasped in unison. Feel so much, Do said, his large eyes wide. Human emotions so strong, so bright. Is working, Sun confirmed, touching one of the patches. Fur responding to emotions, generating more heat than normal. For the next hour, they maintained this emotional focus. When someone's energy flagged, others would help, sharing stories and memories to rekindle positive feelings. The Mok joined in, sharing their own powerful memories through the neural connection. Soon, it became difficult to tell where human emotions ended and Mok emotions began. They flowed together, amplifying each other, creating a feedback loop that continued to intensify the heat generation. Ship temperature stabilizing at -160 degrees, the computer announced. Life support failing in all areas except central chamber. That's still too cold for humans normally, Jin said, but with these patches and our shared body heat, we might make it. Hours passed. The crew maintained their circle, sharing warmth, memories, and emotions. When some needed to sleep, others stayed awake, maintaining the emotional connection. 36 hours after the initial power failure, the ship's computer announced, external vessel detected, Rescue ship arriving in 20 minutes. A cheer went up from the exhausted crew. They had survived the impossible through cooperation, sacrifice, and the unique combination of mock biology and human emotion. As they prepared for rescue, Hyun approached the four mock. "What you did, and there's no way to thank you enough." Sun placed a furry hand on Hyun's shoulder. "No need for thanks. We learned something important. Mock biology strong against cold, but human emotions stronger. Together, we survive what neither could alone." Bae nodded, her young eyes filled with wisdom beyond her years. "Is new bond between our kinds. Not just fur connection, but understanding. Respect." The rescue ship docked, bringing warmth and safety. As medical teams treated the crew for their exposure to the extreme cold, scientists marveled at how they had survived temperatures that should have been fatal. Captain Tae made sure the official report credited the mock's sacrifice and Hyun's innovation. The fur patches were carefully collected for study, with the mock's permission. This new technology, combining alien biology with human ingenuity, would save many lives in the future. But the most important outcome couldn't be measured or studied. Humans and mock had shared something deeper than technology or biology. They had shared their inner selves, their memories, their emotions. As Hyun watched the mock speaking with the rescue team, explaining their experience, he knew that the harmony had lived up to its name in an unexpected way. Different species working together had not just survived a crisis, they had created something new and valuable through their differences. That was humanity's unique contribution to the universe. Not just solving problems, but building bridges between different worlds.